Okay, all right. Moodle, in Moodle, this week to do today is your 2.3, 2.4 quiz, and then discussion. A lot of you guys forget to do the discussion, so make sure you do the discussion from this week. And then also, it looks like there's 12 of you that have done it that I haven't read yet. And then the quiz on 2.3 and 2.4 due today. Now, for next week, you are going to have a test on chapter 2, and then we're going to do 3.1 and 3.2 stuff, okay? And you'll have a quiz on 3.1 and 3.2. So I do want to go over this 2.4 with you guys pretty quickly to make sure you guys, because there are going to be some questions on variation on your test. Even if it's not on your, and there should be some on your quiz too, but some of you guys probably have already taken your quiz. So let me, okay, I'm on Spotlight. All right, 2.4 is, make sure. All right, 2.4 is going over direct variation, inverse variation, joint variation. And I feel like you guys have seen this before, but for some reason people do struggle on it a little bit. All right. So direct variation is when y varies directly with x. We can also say y is directly proportional with x. Now I'm using y and x. You can also use different variables for this. If you see the word direct, that means you're going to use this direct variation. So it just means that you have a multiplication here. K is our constant value. That's what you're going to have to find first to plug it into your equation. But it just means that you have a direct correlation or like as something increases, your y value is going to also increase. If your x value decreases, your y value decreases. So it's a direct relationship between the two of them. A lot of times these are bigger word problems. And we'll take a look at those, the word problem in just a minute, but the main thing is to know, now, if I were to solve for K, that's what this is. How would we solve for K? We would divide by X on both sides, so we end up getting Y over X here. Think about direct variation is when you really have just two variables you're comparing, and so it's gonna be a multiplication here when you're setting up your equation. I got this. We good? All right, so let's look at a word problem that you would use this on. Again, when you see the word varies directly, you should know that you have to use that formula, okay? All right, I'll go up to this point. Monthly payment P on a mortgage payment varies directly. Listen some chats over here. All right, guys, let's focus on the stuff up here, okay? Monthly payment P on a mortgage payment varies directly with the amount borrowed, B. If the monthly payment on a 30-year mortgage is $665 for every 1,000 borrowed, we want to first find a formula that relates P to the amount borrowed, fee B, for the mortgage with these terms. And then the second part of it is we're going to find the monthly payment P when you borrow $120,000. So find the monthly payment P when we borrow $120,000. Can y'all read that? You see it up okay on the screen? Handwriting's terrible. So we're doing two things here. I'll let you guys write this down and then we'll talk about it. I know there's a lot of wording on this, so really, once you guys kind of see the layout, and I spelled monthly wrong. Monthly. Monthly. Huh?
Double.
No.
Oh, you're standing like, wait,
Huh?
I'm standing there, go wait to me.
Oh, no, yeah, we've been working for about 10 minutes already. I ain't recording this, so you might want to go back.
How do you go back?
All right, so the key thing from this is when you see this word very directly, okay? We have our first variable. So when you see monthly payment P, this is our first variable. So this is going to be P equals. And then when you see this varies directly, this tells you you're going to have your K value, which our constant value, which we have to find, times, and then this is going to give you your other variable, borrowed B. So your first, and it says, find it, if the monthly payment on a 30-year mortgage is $665 for every 1,000 borrowed, find the formula that relates P to the amount borrowed B for a mortgage with these terms. So this is your first step, is just getting this direct variation formula. Then you're going to plug in the next sentence, which tells you the information. So if it says, if monthly payment on a 30-year mortgage is $665, what does this amount represent? What does the $665 represent?
The payment paid.
It's your P. It's your P. Okay, so and it says it. If the monthly payment on 30-year mortgage is $665. So this is $665. This is your P amount. The first thing we're going to find is we're trying to find our K value, and we know our amount B is going to be what here? For every 1,000 borrowed. So 1,000 represents our B value. And so the first thing we have to do is we have to find our value of K once we plug it in. And so when we do that, we divide by 1,000, and you're going to end up with K equals 0.0. So we move this 3 places to the left, 0.0665. That's right. About when you divide by 1,000, you're moving in 3 places to the left. And so now this first thing says find a formula that relates P to the amount borrowed B with these terms. If we have our K value, all we have to do is plug that value back in. And so this would be the first part of the answer. This is what they're asking for. Find the formula. This is the formula. Does that make sense? Have you guys done this before? Direct variation?
Like it, but
Okay.
so I'm confused when you named that was the formula with P equals 0.00665 B. I'm confused on that part.
This is the formula. So this first part, this question said, find a formula that relates P to B. This is that formula. And the way to find that every time is you plug the value in for P that they give you, the value for B, and you have to find your K value, and that value is then replaced back into the formula. Okay? Now, and sometimes they don't ask for the formula. So sometimes you don't have to get the formula, depending on what the question is. Okay? Now, the second part says, find the monthly payment when we borrow $120,000. So what are we given? What's the $120,000? What's the $120,000 represent? The B. So now we take this and we plug it back in. That's why we need to know the formula. And when you do that, 120,000 times 0.00665, it's going to end up being what? P equals 798. So that's going to be your monthly payment. No, I had it worked out. I did do it. I'm not that good. I had this one worked out already. I didn't do that in my head. But I should check myself. That's right. Okay. So a lot of these problems is just setting up the formula first and then plugging in what you know, okay? The next one we're gonna talk about is inverse variation. It's similar, except inverse, you think of divide. So when you see the word inverse, you're going to divide. Everybody got this down? I'm gonna move to the next definition. Are good? All right. So inverse, like I said, definition for inverse is gonna be very similar. Instead of multiplying by the variable, you're going to divide. So think of inverse, right? It's the opposite. Our inverse. All right, so inverse variation, y varies inversely with x, or you might also see y is inversely proportional with x. We would write this as y equals k over x. And if you're solving for k, you're gonna be multiplying your y and your x value. It's a very similar problem, except you're gonna see the word inversely. And when you see the word inversely, you know you need to divide. my phone on silent? It's a scammer. Might be a way to block those calls by now. All right, it's a long one. These are all kind of wordy, but they're really not hard. You just got to understand how to set them up, okay? The max weight W that can be safely supported by a 2x4 inch piece of pine varies inversely with its length L. And then it says experiments indicate that the max weight of a 10-foot long 2x4 piece of pine can support is 500 pounds. Write a formula to relate W in pounds with length L, and then find the max weight to support the length of a 25 feet. To support length of 25 feet. Once you guys try this one, again, first, you're gonna write your variables that represent your equation. Then you have to solve for your K value, which is your constant. And then you plug that back into the formula, and then you replace things. So you have to actually find the formula first that relates W and L with the K value that you find. And then you'll find the second part. So you're doing two things here, finding the formula and then finding the value of your weight.
Non ci da.
Thinking.
Okay. Just have to look about.
Is that a 10 TT or is it L?
Which one?
The 10 or L?
Oh, it's feet. This is supposed to be feet.
Okay.
It's just, I abbreviated it. F, it's an F. I know my handwriting is terrible. Trying to abbreviate a little bit here.
Will you stop? I understand you do. You told me 7 times. I understand.
Remember, everybody should be working on this problem, okay? You guys should be working, especially in NERBA too, y'all should be working on what we're talking about. If I start seeing people taking quizzes during class time while I'm doing it, and I notice you guys are submitting it while we should be learning in class, I'm gonna start giving zeros. I don't know if people are doing that. I'm just saying. I don't know what everybody's doing on their computers, so they could be doing that. I don't know. I can see my child doing something like that because she just wants to get stuff done. Which I get on her about all the time. I know these are wordy. I know these are wordy, and sometimes that it seems like they're more complicated. but they're, just do it piece by piece and it won't be.
They hurt my brain.
It
It really.
is wordy, it's wordy. But really, you're looking for your variables. So think about it, the max weight W, there's one variable
Yeah.
that can be safely supported by a tube. This is nothing. This is just,
Like that.
yeah, just blank that out, okay? Just telling what weight can be supported. This all goes with W, okay? Then you're here, varies inversely. So that tells you it's gonna be equal to K over L. That's your first part. So you should have W equals K over L. That's our first part. Now, this next sentence, this experiments indicate that the max weight of a 10-foot long, this tells you what?
How long it is.
How long it is. So that's gonna be
Oh,
the L. So again, this is gibberish. How long a 2x4 piece of pines can support is 500 pounds. What is that?
the W.
The W. So again, there's a lot of extra in there that can, like, some people are like, what do I do with a 2x4? Like, that's just, yeah, that's just telling you that's just telling you what you're looking at, which is our piece of pine. So then once you solve for K, you put K back into this, and that's your actual formula. So you gotta solve for K first. How do you solve for K? K is being divided by 10, so what would you do to get rid of K? These are being divided, so what do we do?
The little dot thing with 10 with times it.
Yes. So K is gonna be what?
Big number.
5,000. Everybody with me so far? Did everybody get K is 5,000? Then what do we do? Trace this over here. All right, so again, let me talk about this. The max weight W that can be safely supported by a 2x4 piece of pine, that all goes together. We're talking about the weight, okay? We're talking about a 2x4 piece of pine, okay? The weight that can be safely supported, so we're doing W equals, and then it goes in to talk about it varies inversely. So that tells you K, and then you're going to divide. Because we're talking about K inversely, we know that's division, okay, with its length L. That's our first part. Then it says experiments indicate that the max weight of a 10-foot long, so that's your L, 10, 2x4 piece of pine can support is 500 pounds. So that's going to be our W. So then we end up with 500 equals K over 10. We have to solve for K, multiply by 10. We get K is equal to 5,000. That's our K value. Now this is being replaced, so it asks for, it says, write a formula to relate W with L. There's our formula. This is what the first part of the answer is. And now the second part says, then find the max weight to support the length of 25 feet. So where would that go? That is your L, and we're finding W. So what is 5,000 divided by 25? Good, Casey. Good, Latrell. 200 pounds would be our second answer. Okay, questions on that? The last variation I'm going to talk about is joint variation, and all joint variation is when you have multiple variables. So
Father.
if you see the word directly related, you're going to multiply. If you see the word inversely, means you're going to divide it by that variable. Okay, so it means you're going to have multiple things going on at one time. So we'll look at an example if I can get through it. Does everybody have this down? Yes, okay.
A month.
Mhm.
Says it on it.
A lot of writing. But it's just wordy stuff. It's really not hard. It's just picking out, the hardest part is picking out the variables. Plugging them in correctly. I don't know about that. All right, joint variation, last one. All right, that's just an example of one. Joint variation is Q is proportional to the product of two or more variables. Q varies jointly with X, Y, and Z. So I have Q equals K times X times Y times Z. All right, guys, focus on the board, please. All right, so loss of heat through a wall varies jointly with the area of the wall and the difference between the temperature of the inside and outside of the wall, and varies inversely with the thickness of the wall, okay? I didn't give any variables on this question, but I want you to be able to write a formula to represent this. So your formula may look a little different than Casey's formula, may look a little different than Deanna's formula, okay? Depending on what you use, what variables you use to represent the things in the problem, okay? So you're gonna need to represent variables for the loss of the heat through the wall, You're gonna need to represent their various, a variable for the area of the wall and for the difference between the temperature of the inside and outside wall and for the thickness of the wall. And again, you don't want to use the same variable to represent the same different things, right? So see if you guys can come up with a formula. There's no, I didn't give you any numbers here. So all you're doing is just write that one formula. So it looks something like that, but your variables might be different. And you're gonna have an inverse. That means you're gonna have something divided. Okay? Come up, see what you come up with. We got 2 minutes, so do it quickly. All right. Loss of the heat through a wall. Anybody want to tell me what they put for that one? What variable we want to let that one be? Anybody? W, sure. Okay. Varies jointly with the area of the wall. All right, we need to let area of wall be something. What do we want to let that be? Loss of heat through wall. We have area of the wall. Area A, okay. And the difference between the temperature. So we've got difference between inside and out temp. I won't let that be. Little t, okay. And then we varied inversely with the thickness of the wall. Thickness of wall. We want that big T, okay. There we go, big T, little t. Now we can create our formula. So loss of heat through a wall, W, varies jointly. That's going to be equal to, and then don't forget our K for constant. Jointly with the area of the wall is A, and the difference between the temperature is little t. And then the last one says, and varies inversely. That tells us we do what? What does inversely mean? Divide, good. And we're going to divide it with the thickness. I'm going to put big T. And that is our final formula. Okay, questions on this? I got questions. We are done. The K, remember, is your constant. You have to have the K in every single one. They're from the original. So don't forget the K. K is your constant value. Kind of think about it your slip. All right, quizzes need to be due tonight. Thursday we'll meet. We'll start going over 3.1, 3.2. Next week, which will show up tomorrow, you're going to have a chapter on your chapter test, a test on your chapter 2 test. It will be timed. So, and I have already put in for those of you who have extra time. I put those in. That should be correct. You have an hour. So I would go ahead and make sure you have everything you can have formulas and stuff out with it. Just study some before you take the test. How many questions? I think it was either 20 or 25. But there's some matching in some of those. So really it's more than that, but there's some matching. There's matching, multiple choice, and true false. Okay? All right, we'll see you guys Thursday.